Boys and girls, today we are going to talk about genetics and heredity, or this week we're going to begin talking about it. So these seem like big words, genetics and heredity, but really it's just kind of the study of why you look the way you do, and how you get those traits and things from your parents and your family. And so we get into that. Mostly we get into the traits that you get from your parents, but we do talk some about the why and how you get those traits also. So this is a trait that we're going to talk about too. That is not a trait that I have. So we're going to see if that's the trait you have. See if you can do that with your tongue while you're listening to me. Okay. So first we're going to talk about DNA. DNA is probably something you've heard of before, and you've probably seen this picture before. So DNA is a long molecule contained in the nucleus of every cell of every living thing. So there are a lot of them. Every cell, there's so many cells. So every living thing is full of cells, and every cell has DNA in it. And your DNA contains all the information about how a living thing will look and function. And what's really cool is every living thing has a unique set of DNA. That's what makes you, you. Even if you're a twin, an identical twin, your DNA is not the same as your identical twin. So everybody has a unique set. Okay, so we can, find our DNA in our hair, in our skin, in our blood, in bones, teeth. It's in every cell of every living thing. So it's all over. Every living thing has DNA. Now, DNA is passed on from biological parents to their offspring. So if you have a step parent, you don't have your step parent's DNA. Okay? This has to be your biological parents. So this doesn't mean you're going to be exactly your parents, because you have your own unique set of DNA. You may have heard somebody say, you look just like your mom, or you look just like your dad, or your brother, or your grandma, or your aunt. And you may look a lot like them, and that's because of DNA being passed down. Okay? So in your DNA, you have chromosomes and genes. So chromosomes are compacted coils of DNA that contain your genetic information. And your gene is a specific piece of a chromosome that contains instructions on how to make protein. Excuse me. So we can see this picture. This is what we see a lot. This is the helix, double helix. We hear it called a lot. That is a little more complex than what we really need to try and understand in 5th grade. Our main goal in 5th grade is understanding that we get traits from our parents because of DNA. But don't worry so much about knowing exactly how a chromosome works and how it breaks down like this. This is just kind of giving you more of an overview. Now, DNA is stored. So it says, when fully unwound, the total DNA in each cell is almost 3 meters. So a meter is similar to a yard. So think about 3 yards. Whoa, that's a lot. How would you fit something large that you needed to pack into a suitcase? So that's why it has to be scrunched up. So a cell fits so much information into that small thing. Okay, how are offspring like their parents? So offspring is the young of something. So you are offspring of your parents. This kitten is the offspring of that cat. Okay? These little corn plants and the grown-up corn, the fully grown corn. Okay, so let's think about this tiger and the tiger cub. How are they alike and different? So if we think about a like first, they look very similar. Their colors are very similar. They both have stripes. They are furry. They have 4 legs. They have a tail, whiskers. There's lots of similarities. Main difference that probably we see right off is just the parent is much larger, and that means probably has much larger hands, much larger teeth, things like that. There's probably a lot of things, if we could get a closer look, that we could see are different about those also. So traits are personal characteristics. They are things about you, like how you look or what you like. Okay, now a characteristic is either inherited or acquired. So again, you are unique, and characteristics about you are called your traits. So an example of an inherited trait would be eye color. An example of an acquired trait would be basketball skills. And we're going to talk about those more specific. So an inherited trait. That is a trait received from your biological parents through DNA and genes. So that's like your eye color, your hair color, your skin color, how tall you are, what your blood type is, skin tone, so many things. Those are inherited. Those are something that come right from your parents. So some more examples: eye color, hair color, skin color, height, your foot size, moles, birthmarks, freckles, diseases, or a condition that you are born with. Those are things that you have when you are born. So on the opposite of that, an acquired trait is something developed during life, and you are not born with it. A lot of times it's things you've learned. Like we said, basketball skills, riding a bike, reading, writing. You didn't just know how to read when you were born. You didn't just know how to ride a bike. You had to learn. Or things that have happened to you. If you break your arm, if your finger is cut off, if your hair is cut, things like that. Those are acquired traits. Okay, now we also have learned traits and behaviors. Your mannerisms, things that you do with your body that you probably don't even notice. The language that you speak, that is learned. Whatever religion you believe in. The food that you like best. Your music, your sports. It's a lot about your environment that helps give you these learned traits, right? If you've never had Mexican food, then you might say you don't like it, but it maybe is because you've never had it. You've never been around it or exposed to it. Or Indian food, things like that. All right, now acquired traits end with you. You cannot pass on acquired traits to your offspring. That is not in your DNA. Okay, so for example, if you cut your arm off, if your arm is cut off, your kids are not going to be born with one arm because of that. Some traits are both. So like skin color. Of course you get the skin color that you are born with. That's inherited, the genes you get from your parents. But the amount of time you spend in the sun will also affect that. Dimples. Is that acquired or inherited? That would be inherited. You can't make yourself have a dimple. So cute. Okay? If someone is bilingual, is that inherited or acquired? That would be acquired. They have to learn those languages. Knowing how to swim, acquired. Hitchhiker's thumb. You might be doing it right now. That's inherited. A man is blind from a firework accident. That's acquired. He wasn't born like that. Rolling your tongue. That's inherited. Calluses on your feet. Those are acquired. Maybe you go to a theme park or swimming in a pool, get you some calluses. Maybe you have them on your hand if you're learning to play the guitar. All right. A pea plant has purple flowers. So those purple flowers coming, that's that inherited. Harry has a scar on his head. He acquired that scar if you've watched Harry Potter. A bush has trimmed limbs. Somebody cut them. That would be acquired. Okay? A mouse with a cut tail. That's acquired. A brown calf has brown parents. That's inherited. A fish has gills to breathe underwater. Of course, born that way, inherited. A tree is bent due to wind blowing. That's acquired. We've seen that a lot around here because of hurricanes. A shark has scars. That would also be acquired. Something has happened since he's born. Bites. A plant has growths from insects' bites. Is that acquired or inherited? That would be acquired because the bites came afterwards. They weren't born with those. Okay, so did you know that the traits of an animal or plant often help it survive its environment? So look at this frog. Its color is inherited. And how does it help it survive? That frog is able to blend in really well. Okay. Let's look at Fido's physical traits.
Do you have one of these? Ever wonder who Fido's ancestors were? Well, scientists have determined that dogs evolved from the wolf more than 10,000 years ago. Selective breeding over many centuries has led to the creation of approximately 400 recognized breeds worldwide. Now, to better understand what makes your dog so special, let's take a closer look at his DNA, the basic blueprint for life. When your dog was conceived, he received 2 copies of DNA, one from his mother and one from his father. Which pieces of DNA are inherited from each parent is completely random. This is why there's variation in how siblings look and behave. In fact, brothers and sisters with the exact same parents are only 50% genetically the same on average. You may see this in your own family. There's likely a family resemblance, but chances are your brothers and sisters don't look exactly alike. Now, within each strand of DNA are segments called genes. Exactly which genes you receive or inherit will help determine traits like your height, hair color, and more. Some traits are dominant, meaning you only need one copy of that specific gene to show it, while recessive traits require that you have 2 copies of the gene, one from your mom and one from your dad. Examining Fido's coat is an easy and fun way to discover his individual genes and traits. Let's look at several traits your dog may have. Let's begin with color. How does a dog get his coat color? It starts with the cells that produce color or pigment. These are called melanocytes. During development, these pigment-producing cells start out along the top of a dog's back and then spread down his body as if he had a can of paint poured over him. Black, brown, and yellow are the basic foundation coat colors. The first color, black, in most breeds is a dominant color, meaning you only need to inherit one copy of black to show it. This is why so many mixed breed dogs have mostly black coats. White spotting occurs when a dog does not have enough pigment cells to cover his whole body. Generally, the white areas tend to be farther away from the dog's back, like on his feet, chest, and the tip of his tail. Brown and yellow, on the other hand, are recessive traits, requiring a copy from both parents. Dogs can also have a yellow base coat with a black or brown saddle over the dog's back, as you can see in some breeds like Beagles and German Shepherds. A black or brown mask over their muzzles, like we see in the Boxer and Pekingese, or black or brown striping known as brindle, like we see in the Boxer or Mastiff. All 3, saddle, mask, and brindle, are dominant traits. In terms of hair type, long hair is recessive and short hair is dominant in most cases. The curly coat of breeds like the poodle is semi-dominant, which means if you have 2 copies of the curly gene, your dog will have a very curly coat, as you can see in the poodle. But if you mix a poodle with a straight-coated breed like a Labrador, the hair coat looks wavy, like in a Labradoodle. Another gene, called furnishings, is responsible for giving a dog longer facial hair, like a cute beard and eyebrows. This is a dominant trait that can come from many different breeds, from Scottish Terriers and Poodles to Shih Tzus. Finally, head shape and ear shape and size are related to a number of genes coming together and acting co-dominantly, or working toward the middle. Ironically, a relatively small number of genes control the majority of physical traits we see in our dogs, and many breeds carry most of these traits. Remember, a mixed breed dog is a combination of genes from its ancestors. If a trait is dominant, it only takes 1 copy of that gene to show it, and it could be coming from many generations back and still be seen. Meanwhile, recessive traits can easily be hidden from view. Now you can see why Fido's appearance only reveals part of his ancestry. The rest of his story is revealed when you take a closer look at his DNA. This will give you a better picture of who his ancestors really are and help you get to know him better too.
All right. So, I thought that was a good explanation of how DNA can work and how we can look different than our parents or the same. So we'll talk more about dominant and recessive traits also, but that is just a quick overview of genetics.